So, as if everything going on wasn't enough for one person to manage with, something happened today that is really concerning. So, I've spoken about this several times before. In 2022, I reported a human trafficking organization that was using a Team Fortress 2 server as a cover for their operations. In the end of the server's lifespan, it started experiencing DDoS attacks from a hacker that was trying to. I'm not really sure what he was trying to do, but he was trying to shut down the server. Why, I don't know, because he seems to be as evil as the human traffickers he was pitting himself against. But in the end of the server, I reported several of the admins of the server for acts of child abuse that they were bragging about. And I reported the person who I have used Glasswire to deduce was the culprit, DOSing both the server and the web forums that hosted the server's discussion. Shortly after I reported this hacker, my state's DMV and all of its records were hacked. Now, the FBI has a conflicting story to what I present, but the verbiage used in the FBI's reports of what they think happened uses a lot of speculative statements regarding the situation. None of it is definitive. They think it was a group of Russian hackers. However, the fact that the IP addresses were coming from Russia could easily have been a VPN in Russia. I have a VPN on my computer that can disguise as a Russian server, so I remain ambivalent about the FBI's analysis of this incident. I still think it was somebody that I reported for hacking, trying to find more information about me. And I have several reasons why I believe this. Shortly after the DMV was attacked, 23andMe was attacked, which is something my father, back in, I want to say 2017, got me as a present, which I kind of felt like he was saying, I don't believe you're my son and I want you to take a DNA test without really saying it. So in 2017, I took a 23andMe, meaning my data is somewhere on 23andMe. And that got hacked. And I thought, oh, that's really suspicious. Now, my own personal computer has been hacked numerous times. And it didn't start getting attacked until after I reported the hacker. About a year ago, at the beginning of summer, I started classes at a local community college. And shortly after, about a month after I joined, I got an email that there were phishing attacks going around the school campus, and that there was a hacker trying to access people's information. And I thought, oh, that's really suspicious given that 23andMe and the DMV and my personal PC, which is a great rhyme, all have been attacked recently. Well, today I've moved on to a university where I have a 4.0 and I'm excelling in all fields. My instructor for an essay I wrote just last week said I had a genius idea, and being described as a genius feels really good. But my new university just today, when I woke up this morning, sent an email saying phishing attacks are going around the network. And I thought, that's really suspicious given that I have this long trail of a malicious hacker from Team Fortress 2 that has been trying to hack me for God knows, for probably reporting him to the FBI. I don't think that's too outside the realms of possibility to conclude that. So now there's there's definitely multiple people that are after me in regards to different human trafficking organizations. And the often suggestion that I get from people who hear this story is you're schizo posting and you need to take your meds. Now, to address that defense that people throw at me, I spoke to my therapist yesterday, as I mentioned in my last video, and she wanted to recognize and validate me on the massive burden of proof I have that my life is in danger. And she believes I'm in danger, but she also believes that it's all going to work out for me in the end. Although, what else is she going to say? She's going to say, well, I really think you're going to die here. She's not going to say that. Of course, she's going to wish that everything works out for me in the end. But the problem that really gets to me is that nobody is helping me. And instead of taking my story even with a grain of salt, people are barraging me with insults and defamation and trying to pull my past out of thin air so that they can use it against me in order to discredit me, even though I have like logs of my computer being hacked. I have logs of my schools being hacked. I have logs of my state DMV being hacked. You know, I have all of this proof that adds up over time that I've submitted to the appropriate channels, and nobody is helping me, and all are acting in complicity. And I believe that has to do with something about powerful leaders in society upsetting the government for their outspoken behavior. Like, I guess a popular example is MLK Jr. I've been reading his autobiography lately, and it's no doubt within my mind that law enforcement knew he was in danger because he got stabbed, he got bombed, he had people call his phone and threatening him, and law enforcement, instead of choosing to defend him, chose to incarcerate him numerous times for his outspoken behavior, which I find oddly suspicious. You know, the same could be said about rapper Tupac. Tupac had outspoken behavior regarding civil rights movements, and there was clear evidence leading up to his death and assassination, just like MLK Jr., that his life was in danger, and law enforcement chose not to do anything about it. Now, on an unrelated note, but I also feel that it's similar and I want to address, this situation to me feels a lot like that recent Kick streamer who died on stream due to bullying and harassment. You know, I had a woman trying to convince me to kill myself on Twitch, and I even made attempts in the past, but I survived them all. I feel like, just like that Kick streamer, society isn't going to care about my story or even investigate it until I am dead. And that puts fear in the pit of my heart. That's all I'm going to say. I have more I could say about this, but people don't watch 30-minute videos about how my life is in trouble because most people don't care. They want to watch an actress pretend she's a 8-year-old cartoon wearing a G-string. You know, they don't care about how her actions are affecting my life in any way because they want to forget about their own worries and troubles. My troubles are too much for most people to bear the burden of. I can hardly bear the burden of my own struggles, but that's the realistic dynamic of the situation at hand. Instead of taking my word for what it's worth, you would rather protect your narrative and call me a schizophrenic lunatic that's making this story up, because to admit that you're involved in something that is hurting multiple families in my neighborhood is not something anybody wants to admit. And I understand why you would want to do that. The point of this video isn't for fear-mongering. It's not to make anybody feel threatened. It's only to state the purpose and my perspective of all of the attacks and victimizations I have been subjected to in the past 3 years. If you want to help, sign my petition. All right, bye.